Hi, and welcome back to another episode of Reality Behind the Flight. I'm your host, DaCoda Bartels, COO at FlyGuys, and today I have a special guest with me, Mr. Kaleb Williams, the Director of Operations here at the headquarter office in Lafayette, Louisiana. Welcome, Kaleb.
Yes, thank you, sir. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I wanted to get right into it and just sort of get a little understanding, a little background about how you landed in the drone industry at all in the first place. What led you to the industry?
That's a very interesting story. I'll try to dial it all the way back into college. College is where I first started. I went into college I went in for risk management and insurance, which is probably a bit of a surprise for everybody. Yeah, I know, right? Yeah. And it didn't take long. It was one semester, and I was like, not for me, not doing this. And then I switched over to business administration.
Okay.
Did that for about 2 years. And then I got kind of bored with that. And I was like, this isn't too much of anything new that I already don't know in a way. Just using logic and other business sense. My dad is a businessman, so kind of had a little bit more of experience than most going into that department in college. And so the classes weren't really striking me as interesting enough.
Yeah.
So it's like, what is something that I like to do for fun and something I've always wanted to do? And that was flying, and I always wanted to fly. So I was like, all right, I'll switch my major to aviation, and I'll be a pilot.
There we go.
And that was junior year of college.
Okay, so you'd been in it for a while. You weren't just still fumbling around freshman year.
Right.
Gotcha. Okay.
Right. And then let me back up. No, it was junior year. So junior year, halfway semester break, Christmas, the winter break, they completely killed the aviation department at ULM. And so no warning, no heads up, no maybe an email that I didn't check that day.
Wow.
But I went to go just do your normal administration, or at the end of the semester, the checkup with your dean. And he was like, yeah, no, this isn't aviation anymore. This is unmanned aircraft systems management. I'm like, excuse me? I'm like, what is that? It's like drones. We're switching the entire program over to drones. And Surprise. And I was like, well, I'm not flying. And he was like, well, you could fly. You would just be flying a drone instead. And so I was like, in the air in an aircraft or the drone. It's one of those situations where I kind of really didn't have a choice, but also I just wanted to see what would happen. And so I just wrote it out for a semester, and it locked me in ever since.
Wow. Man, what a day to wake up and just everything. You'd already shifted a couple of things around, trying to narrow your focus on which direction you want to head, and then all of a sudden one day, manned to unmanned, whether you like it or not.
Yep.
But it sounded interesting enough, so you gave it a go. Man, that's...
Yep, it was a combination of the business that I just spent 2 years in the business administration world of the college, and then they took aviation and kind of like cut it in half into a middle ground, but with drones, and then incorporated the two. And so my degree has a lot of business and the drone technology combined. It's like a merged department.
Which worked out pretty well, considering where you're sitting today. Would you have ever imagined, back in that moment, that you'd be running an operations department at a nationally scaled company today for unmanned aircraft?
Absolutely not. Not as quick as I did. Definitely not as quick as I did.
Yeah, that's a wild turn. So one minute you think you're going to go off and be a pilot. What kind of pilot were you thinking about becoming? Fixed wing? Or?
I didn't even get to that point yet. I was learning
about the industry in general, or just aviation in general.
Yep, about the aircrafts, the instruments, the charts, airspace, all the above, and I didn't even get in a plane yet.
Wow.
And that happened.
I have a tough time imagining what that would be like and just moving forward. But obviously, it worked out for the better, I would say.
Yep, definitely.
Wow. Okay, cool. Tell us a little bit about Kaleb outside of work. What's it like? I know we work a lot.
We work a lot.
There's not a whole lot of outside of work time.
Yes. Outside of work, I am... my girlfriend, she calls me a workaholic. It's really hard for me to unplug. It's really hard for me to unplug because our job it's in a technology environment, so you can take technology just about anywhere. So it's easy if something needs to be addressed, I can pull up technology and address the problem and keep moving throughout the day. But outside of work, when I am trying to completely unplug, first and foremost, a girl dad. I do have a 6-year-old daughter. Her name's Murphy. I do have a golden retriever who is also, I'm a dog dad. So them two on top of work is about all that's me outside of work. It's just being a dad to both of them and trying to stay away from the computer and still enjoy the life that I've created.
Nice. Very nice. Okay. And you recently made some changes. I know you moved from your hometown, which was, tell us again.
Hometown, I moved from West Monroe, so about 3 hours from where we are now.
Yep. And then made the shift to Lafayette, Louisiana, which is where the headquarters is here, right? A lot of things happening in the office, a lot of different changes. And I mean, it's the heartbeat of what we're all talking about and dealing with every day. And so you made the decision to move closer. What was that like for you and your family even?
It was definitely a tough decision for me, but also an easy decision. There wasn't much left for me at my hometown. I mean, once I got to the degree, it was, what now? Which I can tell that story here in a little bit, which is probably the best or the most interesting story of how I did eventually translate over here. But the moving aspect of it was a pretty easy solution, thanks to your guidance there as well. And there's no looking back. Once I got here, there was no regrets, absolutely no regrets moving here.
Nice. And it's been, how long have you been in Lafayette now?
I think we're coming up on 2 years.
Wow. 2 years.
2 years.
Geez, that flew by.
Yes.
I was having lunch yesterday with Jonathan Slisher, who's a lot of the folks listening who work with us often, I'm sure know Jonathan, and he was celebrating 5 years, and it's crazy. I don't know where the time goes. Okay, well, so thinking back, what are some of those experiences for you? Personally, work experiences or just life experiences that kind of shaped how you operate today and kind of got you thinking about the way you solve problems today.
Yes. To me, it all started in serving tables. Bartending, serving tables, I feel like it's an absolute must in any industry, in any job. If you don't have customer service experience, you're kind of at a deficit already. Learning how to deal with frustrated people and also be able to manage your own kind of client personnel, depending on where you're working, where you're serving. That's where it started, and then I've had many jobs from a theater to Smoothie Kings to running my dad's shops back at home, and that's running my dad's shops is definitely where the business side of my brain definitely turned on, because he runs his own business and it's on a smaller scale, where it's he controls all of it essentially. So he's not really the best at accounting. He's not really the best at inventory. And so once he hired me, as I was finishing my last year of college, I just was like, Dad, you got this wrong. You got that wrong. You got this wrong. You're losing so much money right here. You can make so much money if you put an online e-commerce together. And he was like, son, please stop bothering me with this and you do it. And I was like, absolutely. And I took on a lot of the online e-commerce side of his business. And I mean, within 6 months, I was making him six figures in just online revenue, just selling. There are pawn shops. He has pawn shops, so we're selling all the things that he's got in inventory online at 3 times the cost that he would sell it in the store.
Wow. So at what point in time in your life, was it during school, towards the end of school, graduation? When did you first discover FlyGuys, or the fact that the company existed, or trying to get to where did you land on an opportunity potentially there? What did that look like for you?
This is the good one. This is the good stuff. So last semester of college, we had to do 2 really, one was called an AAR report, something analytics report, and then the last one was a career report. Okay. The career report had to be 22 pages long with 5 different sources, and 2 of them had to be people in your industry. You had to interview them. And then that's what pretty much, and the career report is, what do you plan to do outside of college? And so this is unmanned aircraft systems management, drones. Last semester of college, what am I going to do? I mean, I've never heard of this program. I just spent the last year and a half, going through it. I'm about to get my diploma. What now? And so that report was really challenging for me, but I said, screw it. I got online and I searched drone services. And I'm still a senior in college, and believe it or not, FlyGuys was the first option that popped up. So I clicked it. And
Shout out to our SEO team.
Yes, shout out to them. And then, in the top right it says contact us. And so contacted them, gave them the story. Hey, I'm doing a career report, and I need to interview somebody in this field. Hoping that we can maybe hop online for 30 minutes and I can ask you a couple questions. And I just kind of put that out into the FlyGuys void, I guess. It wasn't pinpointed towards anyone. It was the contact us, inquire and just see whoever got it. I mean, it's a shot in the dark. There's no way I'm getting a response. And it wasn't 24 hours. JP Juno responds to me.
Wow.
Believe it or not, I think he was the vice president at the time, vice president of FlyGuys. He responds, yeah, I'm more than happy to hop on a call with you and do this. And I was like, sweet, this is absolutely unbelievable. There's no way that this is happening. Hop on a call with him, ask him a bunch of questions about the industry, about FlyGuys, what he does. And then once we did, it was supposed to be 30 minutes, turned into an hour and a half because, we're hitting it off.
Geeking out.
Yep. And I was able to put that career report paper together in one swing. Like it was, once I got extracted all that stuff from JP, I was like, this is easy peasy. This is exactly what I want to do. Put it together, submitted it. And of course, JP, he had my phone number. So he was like, hey, whenever you get done with that report, send me a copy of it.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I got real nervous of that whenever he asked for that. And I was like, I'll send it to you once it's graded. Just wanted to make sure it would be perfect before you had it. It was graded, 98 or whatever, killed it, passed, thank God. Sent JP a copy of it. And before graduation, for like 3-4 weeks before I graduated, JP reached out and was, hey, you looking for a job as an intern? I'm like, I'm working full time for my dad. I still got these few weeks left in college. I can, put a few hours towards, this FlyGuys. So yeah, absolutely, sign me up. Interned for a few weeks with JP, and he was having me pretty much organize his spreadsheets for him.
Okay.
And I was just making color coding spreadsheets and just kind of being his little assistant, which was, awesome at the time. And so as soon as I graduated, or I don't even think I could graduate, he calls me, he was like, hey, I'm offering you a full-time job, remote. What do you say? And I was like, sorry, Dad, call Dad, I quit. But he knew that was coming. Full-time job, remote. And then, we had a lot of things happen in the company. I took on some really, really heavy accounts as a new employee and remote and outside, isolated from the in-house guys at headquarters. So they just gave me the hard stuff and said, see if you can figure that out. And
yeah.
I did. And then you came along.
Uh-huh.
Joe came along. And Tyrannus came along, our baby there. One thing led to another, and you reached out and you're like, hey, I have this realtor. I really think you should move here. And the rest is history.
Yeah. That happened 2 years ago. I still can't wrap my mind around that. I know you just told me that, but I'm still just wrapping my head around the fact that was 2 years already. Man, that's wild.
Yes, indeed.
That's wild. Was there any point in time for you from intern to employee, sometime in there where you really just felt like operations was calling your name and said, operations is where I want to be? Obviously, we've got all these different departments within the company now. I think we're scratching almost 100 full-time employees, which is an enormous amount of growth over the past couple of years. So it's just the company landscape has changed so much. Was there a time when you said, no, I don't want to do this, I don't want to do that? Operations, that's the one for me.
I can't really pinpoint it. It feels like operations is just in my blood. Like I never considered anything other than operations. And what is the machine? That's like whatever makes that machine work and what makes it tick, I have to be a part of it.
Is there something you would say that, maybe there's some special sauce or whatever we want to call it? At FlyGuys, we love to interact with the pilots directly. Mm-hmm. We have that kind of white glove element of what we're doing. You're handling every mission coordinator that we have on the floor. They all roll up to you as director of operations. Is there any advice you could maybe give to the pilots, whether they're new or been around for a while, just some of the things that you've seen over the years that really make a pilot stand out, as somebody who's not just doing a great job, but is getting a lot of opportunities, Maybe it's the right equipment or the right location. Is there just anything you could say about, what makes a pilot really stand out to your team?
Yeah, obviously the equipment, the location are really important factors there. But my advice is to not always keep an open mind. There's a lot of drone pilots out there that know what they're doing, and they're professionals. But we have a lot of clients that come across our desk that something brand new, and trying to approach a pilot who's trying to apply some old scopes or old workflows to something that's new, because the technology that we deal with, it's brand new every single time. It's never been done before. My advice would be to stay curious. You have to stay curious. You have to ask questions, and you have to be adaptable. You have to be adaptable and just willing to learn something new, and then apply your old experience into something new, and then merge them two together.
Yeah, no, I think that's good. Are there things that, when you think about some of those seasoned pilots that we've interacted with a lot, they've flown a ton of different missions for us. Are there things that they're doing that really stand out in your mind? They're great communicators. Is there anything special that you feel like they're doing that's giving them that little extra edge?
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's the ones that are giving you the most constructive feedback in the field. The ones who will take the time to put a little report together or modify the scope of work and then give it to you for a review and say, hey, this is what you gave me. We can reach the outcome. However, if I do it this way, we also achieve the same outcome, but better. And that kind of feedback, that kind of collaboration goes such a long way.
Yes. Oh man, that's great. Yeah, that's a great answer, because that I would agree with you 100%. That stands out to me as well. We're strength in numbers, really, with our pilot network as large as it is, to have those kind of collaborative conversations. Because oftentimes we'll have a situation where, a customer may approach us to say, here's the scope of work. Here's exactly how you need to fly this drone or set up this terrestrial camera or combination thereof, right? And this is how it has to be. And then we'll look at that and say, okay, well, definitely understand how that works. But what if we did X, Y, Z, right? What if we tweaked this, maybe a little more time on that, a little less time here? We could arrive at the same outcome, maybe in less time. Or higher resolution here, takes 5 more minutes, something like that, right? And so we have those kind of conversations with the pilots all the time, where they're coming in, they're reading the scope, and they're saying, you know what, guys, this will work, but what if?
Right.
And then you get into that dialogue, and then the next thing you know, we expand with a pilot advisory board, or maybe we're having some sort of fireside chat with the pilots to kind of figure out how we could expand on something. And I feel like that sort of collaboration between the company and the pilot network becomes such a strength to bring to our customers and clients to make sure we're providing, really the best quality outcome and deliverables we possibly can. So
absolutely.
Yeah, definitely encourage the pilots to be vocal. We're here to speak to them, and we want to be, and we get a ton out of it, and it's a win-win because we get to know them a little bit. And
yeah, that's something I tell the team, is to always, whenever they're working through their projects, find your pilot. Everyone has to have that pilot who is willing to go above and beyond just because of the relationship that you built with them. You have to find that pilot because their experience in the field. We're here in HQ behind a desk, at a computer, so we don't get to see through that lens that often. So the merging of those two worlds is what success looks like.
Yeah, and I'm always trying to think about. We're always wanting to more pilots, more people, just fresh eyes, fresh perspective. It's all helpful, right? Strength in numbers, like I was saying. How do you become somebody's guy in an area or gal, or how do you? What are those things that really just kind of help? And I think we just talked about it. Really, it's be engaged, communicate, collaborate with us. I think all that stuff kind of helps a whole lot.
Absolutely, the communication is extremely important, and the constructive feedback, whether it's good or bad, and how it's translated and how it's interpreted, is a very important piece to improving something that's really complicated.
Yeah. I'm curious from your perspective. So it's been a little over a year. I think it was January of, was it 25? January of 25, we did kind of a test run of elevating Kaleb to Director of Operations. had all kinds of ideas, all kinds of, fresh perspective on how you could run the ops team. So it's been over a year now that you've been doing it. What's that like for you, kind of making that shift from a mission coordinator on the floor, having to find your pilots and that kind of stuff, to managing a team of people who are all doing what you were trying to do, all within the office? What has that transition been like for you?
Oh, it's a big one. It's a big one. I was so used to taking something and just kind of being on an island and making it my own. And if you need something, you can check in, or you can, what's an update here, and I always had that for you. But that transition to trying to translate what I was doing into other individuals, and then growing those qualities and traits that have to exist on the team that I'm running, is still to this day extremely challenging. There's a lot of personalities. There's a lot of, definitely a lot of personalities at play, a lot of characteristics of individuals that you have to account for. And I can touch on our CEO and the importance of the emotional intelligence and your interpersonal technology. Mm-hmm. That's that big at play right there. That transition is the best transition that could have happened for me at a young age. I think a lot of people forget that I am still fairly young. This is my experience it's minimal, but it's very impactful. That is what I'm trying to translate to that team in an industry that is brand new. So it's a very challenging thing. So you have to find the right people. And once you find the right people, it just clicks. Some of the things, the advice, the recommendations, the strategies, trying to get that through to some of the people on the floor isn't a one-way street. It's always, it'll fork off to the right, and once it forks off, you have to be able to reel that back in and then put those rails back on. But on the other side of that, you kind of want people to stray off course so you can create something, because we're in something that's brand new. Mm-hmm. It's very unique, but I'm extremely grateful for this opportunity.
How would you, so here's a question, just kind of operations in general for folks, pilots and people within our network. The amount of volume of missions that we're handling is crazy. It only continues to get crazier. We kind of joke about that every day, and tomorrow is crazier than today, and yesterday wasn't as crazy as right now. And but operations, can get messy, right? There's so many things happen. I mean, we were talking about several multi-thousand site portfolio just before we walked over here to do this. Mm-hmm. On top of the several other multi-thousand site portfolios, we just have so many missions happening all over the country. What sort of tools are you using to kind of keep a handle on all these kinds of things? There's just, between what's going on and all the new things that are coming in from the sales and marketing funnel, it's a lot to wrap your head around.
Yeah, no, keeping up with all that is extremely challenging. We have 40 of our top accounts, and each one of them is ran differently. So, and then like you said, there's another thousands of portfolios coming over the fence that we've never touched before, that have a whole new software, a whole new process. So the only way to keep up with that is you just have to stay organized. I mean, the tools I use a plethora of tools. A lot of them are AI, based. Mm-hmm. AI has definitely leveled me up, because I was a manual organized person, sticky notes, which some people wouldn't consider organized, but in our office, that is organized as sticky notes. But yeah, the tools I would use, I don't know if I'm allowed to name drop tools on this podcast.
Yeah, a few of them. What are some of your favorites?
Obviously, I think I'm pretty known for ClickUp. People know me very famously for being the ClickUp guru. I know ClickUp overwhelms a lot of people, but it's because you can do so much with it. It's a very customizable tool for what you're trying to accomplish. So you can pretty much run anything that's on your plate through there, create a system, create a process in that software, and it all remains in one spot, and you're able to produce out deliverables, share it, dashboards, everything that you would need in operations to be considered successful. That was a big one. And then AI came around, and that
changed everything.
That changed everything all over again. And that's where I have a hard problem detaching from work after hours. Is I'll just go down these rabbit holes of figuring out what's the new latest AI, what's the new latest AI tool, how are they working together. And now it's gotten to a point where, like ClickUp, are merging AI. And so we're taking things that I am already familiar with, and then AI, which I just recently got familiar with, and now they're merging it all together, and it's just like this playground full of organization and management and seeing success all the way through, which is a very difficult thing to do here in this industry, is seeing something brand new all the way through and calling it a success with no hiccups or surprises. But yeah, ClickUp's definitely the biggest one for me.
Yeah, I know that's definitely true. You are certainly known around the office as the ClickUp guy.
Yeah.
A couple other ones, some of which are we haven't used for a very long time. Slack we've used a long time. Discord is maybe just the last couple of years, but I know you're in a lot of the Discords, or at least monitoring, supervising some of that kind of stuff. Some of the portfolios that we're operating require daily check-ins because it's not an individual job. It may be part of a portfolio over, let's say, like a summer growing season for an agriculture client, for example, where there's daily, multiple times even within that day, interactions with the pilot, morning check-ins. Did you finish this area before you go to the next area? Are there things that you've noticed over the years from the pilot's perspective in the way that they're interacting with our team that has them kind of standing out? I know, especially with Discord specifically, there's been some gamification almost recently to make it a little bit more fun. But if you would, could you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So the way I've kind of seen it is, yes, we have Slack internal for internal FlyGuys communication. We don't really have a tool that allows us to speak to the pilots in the same kind of fashion. And so that's Discord. So Discord's for our pilots, Slack is for our internal FlyGuys employees. So there's one thing that I noticed and learned pretty quickly, especially with the Trans project and using Discord for the first time, was not only do I need to run and manage the operations team here in the office, and telling them how to do certain things, how to create systems and process and have them follow in that, that's almost only 50% of the project. So what if you can take that and apply it to the pilots as well? So you have a team here in operations, 10 to 12, 15 people, and then you have another team of pilots, 10 to 15 pilots. So you can look at as some people in my position would just only focus on this side, only focus on their team, the 10 to 15 people, and have them do everything kind of their own way and reach out to only a few pilots here, reach out to only a few pilots there. Well, if you also have that same aspect into a team of pilots that you have the same channel of communication with, you're able to also lead and control your operations team in parallel with the team of pilots in the exact same fashion. So if they're struggling with something, they need help, they're swamped, they're drowning, I can then go to the Discord tool, communicate what I'm communicating to them, but through the pilot lens, and then we're all on the same page without me having to worry that, if Johnny is telling this pilot the wrong thing because he just started last week. That prevents those issues from happening. And then Discord will also allow pilots to collaborate and lean on each other. And then that's whenever you start to see those pilots who want to go above and beyond, want to really make a name for themselves, start to help out the other pilots on your behalf.
And those guys stand out to you immediately.
Absolutely. Yeah. Those are the pilots that I tell the team you want to keep in your back pocket. Find your pilot. These are those pilots. And Discord is allowing those pilots to really stand out and shine from the rest of them. And yes, I like to gamify them as we're a new company. Our portal is ever evolving and improving, so there's always new features coming out, new workflows, new processes that pilots need to follow to keep the business and the operation organized and flow the way it's supposed to. So when those new improvements come out, being able to communicate to a group of really successful and trusted pilots to then adapt and evolve to this new process, and then communicate and teach other new pilots that are joining this Discord that process without operations having to stop and then give a new training session every single time a new pilot joins that Discord.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay, good. So we've got a little over a year now under your belt in this new leadership role as a director of operations. How would you describe your own leadership style? No corporate buzzwords or anything. Gotcha. What would you consider your style, Kaleb's style?
I think my style is pretty unique. I think it's one you don't really come across that often. I'm not the one that sits onto a pedal stool that needs that shining light and the sword and just spears into the battle. However, I will in the time when the time comes, but I'm more or less, I like to get on the individual level. I like to learn more about what makes people tick, what makes them thrive, what makes them get flustered, and what makes their gears really start to turn. I like to get really personal with people, interpersonal technology, and find out where can I strategically place them in the benefit of not only for the company but for themselves. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I definitely see that. And that's required all the time, right? I mean, as we get all these new portfolios, new customers get onboarded, the way those mission coordinators have to interact with each other and work as a team, it changes.
Very often.
There's a lot of seasonality to what we're doing. So yeah, considering all those things definitely make an impact, and you see it on the floor.
Yeah. Yep. And how many times have we changed the structure of the ops team? It's necessary. People change, people adapt, new people come in, and a blend of certain personalities could be, amazing, but it also could be detrimental. So being able to be flexible and, move people around without causing too much ruckus is probably the key into what we're doing right now.
Yep. What's it been like for you personally, thinking back to the days of when you were in school and talking to JP and interning to becoming an employee? Now you're on the other side of the table where you're conducting the interviews and you're considering whether or not to give someone an offer of full-time employment and so on. What has that been like for you?
It was new. That was definitely the newest, one of the new parts of this role. Never had to hire or have to let somebody go. You definitely you get a little bit of humbled of the type of people out there in the outside world. Sometimes I ran into this whenever the team we had for like a year ago. It's like, this is it. This is probably all I'm going to get. Well, that's not the case. I go through 6-7 rounds of interviews, and I realized that there's these bright brains out there just hungry and motivated. And I was just like, that's what I want. There's more of me out there, and that was really eye opening and kind of refreshing to figure that one out on a personal level.
Yeah, it's interesting every couple of years with AI coming out and
Right.
different things that are kind of just changing the landscape of this industry that's still very much in its infancy. What do you feel like is kind of coming next for the industry, the drone industry or reality data capture industry at large? I mean, we see all these trends or techniques or hardware or software, but is there anything that you see as particularly exciting or something that may affect our network or our people?
Oh, it's definitely AI. So it has some involvement with AI. Now, whether that is, I actually did what was it? I did another paper in college. It was on the drone industry. And at the end of it, my synopsis, I was predicted by like 2028, the sky would just be humming at all times. And it would be pretty much just like traffic here today, but it would just be drones in the sky at the same level. And there would be air traffic control, but for drones. I feel like that is closer than we think, especially with all the deliveries that are happening, with all the technology. I can't really pinpoint exactly what that next change would be, but it's going to have something to do with AI, and it's going to have to do with more of a fleet style operation. So less
Like
human
swarm operation kind of stuff?
Yes, yeah. There's less humans involved and more of the units, the drones. That ratio will soon be offset, and it'll just be one person controlling multiple in a very AI coordinated fashion.
Yeah, so still need lots and lots of people, but
Absolutely.
the effectiveness of a single individual being able to operate multiple units at a time just changes everything,
Correct.
right? I mean, we're seeing that today quite a bit in just docked drone operations.
Yep.
I mean, that's probably no surprise to anybody who's full-time in the industry that has just been exploding over the past couple of years. It's hard to even keep up with just that individual use case. It's moving so quickly. We're even seeing some of that inside of our own office. We're even converting a portion of our office to be a remote ops center, which is wild. I mean, I think we all knew it was coming, but it's one thing to think about knowing that something's sort of coming and it feels like that's a year, maybe 2-3 years away. But then the next thing you know, like next week, we're having a meeting about how we're going to have to make all these changes to accommodate this new technology.
Yep, and that's not just in the drone industry. I mean, that's with our industry as well in business and just management, project management, and operations. I mean, AI is incorporated and it can now do we have a team of 12, 15 people. What the AI involvement now, I mean, we pretty much have an army of 100, but they're AI. And that number will soon, decrease, but the productivity and the throughput will increase. And it's going to be a very unique, time in life.
Yeah.
And it's coming sooner than we think. I give it 6 months.
6 months.
I give it 6 months.
Okay. I'm sure you're right. Maybe less, as fast as it's moving.
AI is it's evolved into its new evolution here recently.
Yeah.
And it's not just get on a browser, ChatGPT, Claude, and you can now install it into your computer. And it can work for you while you sleep. It's pretty incredible.
Yeah. Yep. What is something else that in your role as director of operations, what's something that you'd really hope to have an opportunity to build or make a major change, a big overall new impact?
It would definitely it would take what I just said and throw it in the business, which I think they're doing a version of that now. And I want to talk to the recent individual that we hired for that role because I want to know if I'm right. I have to know if I'm right. And I would like to take I just want to data mine his brain and take what he knows is real and the most effective AI approach to things. And I just want to take that and create my own version of it and apply it to my team and make their lives easier.
Yeah. So, okay, my next question I have for you is kind of twofold. Thinking back to, in your own shoes, that day when it probably felt somewhat like the rug was getting pulled out from under you in school, right? Like all of a sudden you're an unmanned, aviation guy. Today, you're probably pretty thrilled about that.
Oh, yeah.
In the moment, maybe not so much because it was a bit of uncertainty. What sort of advice would you give somebody who would be in that same situation now? I mean, we're seeing unmanned aviation programs pop up at colleges all over the country, all over the world. Any advice for maybe somebody in school that would be in a similar situation to consider that as a career path?
I would tell him to stay curious. You have to ask questions. Be open-minded, and if for a split second you think this may or may not be for you, think again. Just think again, and if you're referring to the unmanned aircraft systems, it's something that's going to just blow through the roof if it's not already.
Yeah.
Pursuing it will make you stand out from the rest, and I think that's what most people want.
And I feel like there's just so much room to grow and time. Like just in the past decade, like the amount of changes and growth we've seen in this industry just keep happening over and over and over. There doesn't seem to be any sort of ceiling that I don't think any of us have seen yet. So it's incredibly exciting. I would echo the same sentiment and encourage anybody to stay involved. It's a very exciting industry to be in.
Yep. That's the beauty of it. We're doing something that's never been done before. And so to try to look out and see what's it look like in 10 years. If you have an answer to that, I'd love to hear it.
Yeah.
Because I cannot comprehend the scale and the capacity of what's coming, especially in 10 years. Oh, wow. But yeah, we're doing something that's never been done before. I can't go look at a manual and be like, oh, that's how Henry Ford did it, or that's how, whoever did it. That doesn't exist. We are the ones creating that right now.
Yep.
I think that's very unique.
What do you think would have happened if, go back again to that? I just keep thinking about what a monumental moment for you and your life and your career and some of those early decisions you make as a young adult that sort of forge the path that you're, going to make for yourself. If the school would have said, we're just going to have to dissolve the aviation program entirely because whatever reason, right? What would you be doing today? Could you even guess?
Yeah, I would have went to LA Tech.
Okay.
And they
gone to the aviation program.
Gone to the actual aviation program.
So you were committed.
Yeah.
Aviation was happening.
Yeah. Some aviation, some form of fashion was happening.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. And I'm just curious, still getting to know Kaleb a little bit. Tell us something about yourself that maybe we would never guess. There's a lot of pilots that have communicated with you. There's a lot of people in the office that work with you. What's something we might not guess about Kaleb? That's an interesting fact. Digging in here.
I'm an ordained minister, and I can legally marry people.
I'll be damned.
Yes. I'm also very acrobatic.
Acrobatic? Well, I certainly wouldn't have guessed that.
Yeah,
Wow.
I know.
That's an interesting. How in the world did you get to be acrobatic?
Just
not
sports,
acrobatic
just
at all.
athletic. You know, growing up, I was in just about all the sports and track, and especially during track practice, we had superiority, you would say. So we would do our warm ups and do our practice, but we would always kind of just full off and go onto the pole vaulting mat or the high jump mat and just pull the mats under the stadium and jump off the stadium and do all kinds of stuff. And that's me and my brother, backyard trampoline, wrestling, pillows and jumping off the roofs into pools. That's pretty much all we did growing up.
Nice. That sounds like fun.
Oh yeah, the good old days.
Cool. Okay. Well, I guess one of the last questions I have for you, Kaleb, and thanks for the time today. It's been great. Is there anything you'd want to share with the network or some other guys kind of coming up as you've seen things progress in the path that we're on and where this industry is headed, the opportunities that are out there? Any any words for those guys out there that may be listening in? Did you want to share?
Yeah, and I've mentioned it already. Is you just have to stay curious.
Yeah.
Ask questions. We're in an industry that is brand new. It's never been done before. So if you have that mentality that you think that you can get away with this or you know the answer to it, you probably don't. It's if you knew the answer a month ago and it is now you're faced with it again, you need to go look it up again because it's probably changed. It probably got better, and a new tool has probably been implemented that can scale it significantly. And if you're just running that same old path, you can guarantee 2 to 3 people to your right or a mile down the road. Got to stay curious.
Stay curious. You heard it. Well, thank you so much, Kaleb. We really appreciate it.
Yeah,
It's been
absolutely.
great getting to peel the onion back a little bit and kind of talking about the industry and all the change that we've seen in really just a short amount of time. So it's been great. So thank you guys for joining us on another episode of Reality Behind the Flight. I'm your host, DaCoda, and we'll see you guys again soon.